Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max. සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max. සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න.
Nava Dove Healthy Ritual. 4 එකක් moisturizing milk, cornflour සහ coconut oil සමගින්.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Friday the 13th of January 2023. The truth and no less. Archbishop of Colombo's Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit says they will pursue other avenues to find the truth about the 2019 Easter Sunday attacks after Supreme Court's decision yesterday. Downwards. Fitch downgrades national long-term ratings of 10 Sri Lankan banks. Exploring. Sri Lankan officials to issue 2-year oil and gas exploration licenses for as many as 900 offshore blocks.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Andrew Bernard. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and welcome to AdaDerana 24's English News. New top story for tonight, Fitch Ratings today downgraded national long-term ratings of 10 Sri Lankan banks. Now this was done following the recent sovereign downgrade and recalibration of the agency's national rating on Sri Lanka. The recalibration is to reflect changes in the relative creditworthiness among Sri Lankan issuers following Fitch's downgrade of Sri Lanka's long-term local currency issuer default rating to CC from CCC on the 1st of December 2022. The rating agency said it typically does not assign outlooks or apply modifiers to sovereigns with a rating of CC plus or below. National scale ratings are a risk ranking of issuers in a particular market designed to help local investors differentiate risk. Sri Lanka's national scale ratings are denoted by the unique identifier LK. Fitch adds this identifier to reflect its unique nature of the Sri Lankan national scale. National scales are not comparable with Fitch's international rating scales or with other countries' national rating scales. As such, the national ratings of the Sri Lankan banks consider their creditworthiness relative to other issuers in the country. The recalibration of the Sri Lankan national rating scale has resulted in downgrades of the national long-term ratings of the Bank of Ceylon, People's Bank, Commercial Bank of Ceylon PLC, Hatton National Bank PLC, Sampath Bank PLC, Cargill's Bank Limited, DFCC Bank PLC, National Development Bank PLC, Ceylon Bank PLC and the Nation's Trust Bank PLC. Meanwhile, other Sri Lankan banks' national ratings which are not mentioned in this commentary have not been affected by the recalibration exercise. Now, Reuters reported today that Sri Lankan officials are preparing to issue 2-year oil and gas exploration licenses for as many as 900 offshore blocks for foreign firms to scout for energy resources and bring in vital investments for the crisis-hit country. The Director General of the Petroleum Development Authority of Sri Lanka, Surat Ovitagama, said that the government will publicize the rules for oil exploration in the country this month. Starting up oil production is part of President Ranil Wickremesinghe's plan to attract foreign investments as he seeks to stabilize the economy amid the country's worst economic crisis in 7 decades. The Director General of the state-run Petroleum Development Authority, Surat Ovitagama, told Reuters that the new regulations were finalized by the government this week and set a framework for companies to sign an expression of interest for exploring offshore assets around the country. He said that the rules for oil exploration will be made public this month and that the government hopes to start issuing licenses for some of the 900 blocks within weeks. He said that in the coming months they expect to recommence oil and gas exploration with the first set of credible entities and that they believe this will boost investor confidence and serve to attract the next wave of EUIs this year. Previous attempts by Sri Lanka to start up oil production have mainly focused on the country's northern coast, but this time the government has mapped assets surrounding all sides of the island. Ovitagama said that Sri Lankan authorities hope that exploration work could start as early as March, and any success in the initial exercise will lead to production sharing agreements for gas and oil. He also revealed that 2 companies have already expressed serious interest and requests for proposals will be issued shortly, leading to negotiations for exploration licenses. According to Reuters, a source with direct knowledge of talks had stated that ONGC Videsh Limited, the overseas arm of India-run state oil explorer, is a frontrunner seeking to explore multiple blocks off Sri Lanka's north and northwest shoreline. The island nation is currently completely dependent on imported fuel, which costs the cash-strapped country around $4.2 billion in 2022. However, the government, based on seismic surveys, estimates that a 30,000 square kilometre area off the northern coast of the country holds over 1 million barrels of oil resources. Sri Lanka held its first international licensing round for petroleum exploration in 2007, with one exploration block awarded to an Indian firm that pulled out in 2015 when oil prices plunged. Now, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will be visiting Sri Lanka on a 2-day visit from the 19th of January. The visit is expected to further strengthen Sri Lanka-India diplomatic ties in the future. Dr. Jaishankar also visited Sri Lanka last year in March with a 5-member delegation, during which he assured continued support of India to the island nation for its economic recovery. Now, the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, expressed his satisfaction with the verdict delivered by the 7-member judge bench of the Supreme Court yesterday on the Easter Sunday terror attacks of 2019. He termed it as a historic ruling. President's Counsel Shamil Pereira, representing the Cardinal, said today that they are hoping the Attorney General will press for criminal charges against former President Maithripala Sirisena, former State Intelligence Chief Nilantha Jayawardena, former National Intelligence Chief Cicero Mendes, based on the findings of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court yesterday delivered its verdict against 12 petitions filed against former President Maithripala Sirisena, former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando, former State Intelligence Chief Nilantha Jayawardena, former National Intelligence Chief Cicero Mendes, and former Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara for failing to prevent the 2019 Easter Sunday attacks due to their negligence, thereby violating the fundamental rights of the victims of the attacks that resulted in 271 lives being lost on that day. The 7-member judge announced that the respondents in fact had violated the fundamental rights of the people and ordered for them to pay compensation to the East attack victims. Accordingly, the Supreme Court ordered former President Maithripala Sirisena to pay 100 million rupees in compensation to the petitioners. Former IGP Pujit Jayasundara and former State Intelligence Chief Nilantha Jayawardena were ordered to pay 75 million rupees each. Former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando was ordered to pay 50 million rupees, and former National Intelligence Director Cicero Mendes was ordered to pay 10 million rupees from their personal money. As such, the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, carried out a media briefing today regarding the decision announced by the Supreme Court.
A 7-member judiciary at the level of the Supreme Court gave a judgment which is a historic one in the history of this country. Even if a person becomes a president with executive power or any other person assumes responsibilities in order to prevent evil from happening, if these people, they themselves engage in such activities, the law in this country has shown that such persons can be punished by the law for behaving in that illegal fashion. That has been proven by this judgment. What is important in this is not so much the amount of punishment, money that has been decreed to be paid by these people, but these innocent people, they lost their lives and their loved ones because people who have been depending on the taxpayers' money, who have held high positions on the money that has been paid by the taxpayers, have neglected their duty to attend to the safety and security of the citizens of this country. They have been depending on the taxes that these poor people pay, but they have not done their responsibility to protect them. Attorney General of that time, Mr. Dappula Dilivera, informed that there was a conspiracy behind this attack and that it should be investigated. But so far, this has not been done in a comprehensive manner. The judgment given will be a great opening for us to start off looking into all the other aspects of this case.
The Church is expecting the Attorney General to take this case forward and institute legal proceedings against those who have been found guilty, criminal proceedings, because this is a fundamental rights case. The view of the church is criminal proceedings against Nilantha Jayawardena, Maithripala Sirisena and Sisira Mendis must now be instituted based on the findings of the Supreme Court.
Now, the Ceylon Electricity Board announced today that they will ensure that the Kalani Tissa power plant will continue to operate by ensuring that the finances required to source the naphtha will be sourced and procured in time. The lack of operation of the Kalani Tissa power plant would deprive the national grid of 165 megawatts of power. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation had decided to stop providing naphtha as required to the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation without due payments being made to the CPC. Due to this decision, the Kalani Tissa power plant was due to be shut down this morning due to the lack of naphtha required to operate. However, the CPC took measures to provide the naphtha required by the power plant today. Even though the inevitable issue was averted for today, the risk of the power plant not being operational tomorrow continues to prevail. If the Kalani Tissa power plant shuts down, the national power grid will be deprived of 165 megawatts of power. However, the CB said that they are taking measures to source the funds required to purchase the naphtha.
අක්‍රීවෙන් නෑ මේ මොහොතේ දුවනවා හෙට දවසේ දුවන්න පුළුවන් ඒ දුවන්න තෙල් තියෙන්න ඕන තියෙන තෙල් ගන්න සල්ලි තියෙන්න ඕන සල්ලි එන එක නැවතුවොත් කැනඩිස් ඉතින් නවත්තන්න වෙනවා මූලික ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා ඒකනේ මේ බිල සංශෝධනය කරලා ඉල්ලන්නේ.
The Fort Magistrates Court today ordered the Police Special Crimes Division to record a statement from former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa pertaining to the millions of rupees in cash that was found at the President's house during the mass protests on the 9th of July 2022. Now, the money was found at protesters on the 9th of July 2022 when they stormed the presidential residence during mass anti-government protests. At least 17.5 million rupees in cash was handed over to the Fort Police by the protesters who were at the presidential residence on that day, which was subsequently handed over to the Fort Magistrates Court 3 weeks later. The Fort Magistrate Tilda Gamage, however, ordered the Inspector General of Police to conduct an investigation into the delay by the police in handing over the money, stating that there was reasonable doubt as to why the Fort OIC delayed the matter. The State Minister of Defence, Bandara says that the Sri Lanka Army is expected to be downsized from its 203,786 to 135,000 personnel by next year. Taking to Twitter, Tendukun said that the military expenditure, a state-borne expense which indirectly stimulates and opens avenues for economic growth by way of assuring national and human security. Thus, he noted that despite the approved Army cadre of over 200,000 personnel, it is expected to be reduced to 135,000 personnel by 2024 and further slashed to 100,000 by 2023. Accordingly, Tendukun explained that the overall aim of the strategic blueprint is to broach a well-balanced defence force that is both tactical and technical by 2030, so as to meet all upcoming security challenges while also being in compliance with the national security dimensions of the country. And stay with us for your business segment right after this short commercial break.
It's hard to keep up with the new when you're listening to the same old Slim Bread Week, a week for professionals.
Welcome back. Now, the Election Commission has sought an explanation from the Secretary to the Ministry of Public Administration about the letter he had sent returning officers with regard to the local government election. Ministerial Secretary Neil Bandara Hapuhinna was summoned by the election body today. On the 9th of January, Hapuhinna directed a letter to all returning officers instructing them to suspend accepting the deposits placed by the candidates for the local government election. However, the letter was recalled later by Hapuhinna. Now, China has donated school uniform material worth $4.24 million to Sri Lankan students to meet their requirements in the year 2023. Accordingly, the first batch of the total donation containing 3 million fabric meters of school uniform material reached the Colombo port today. The Chinese embassy in Colombo said school uniform material donation would fully cover the requirements of the northern, eastern, over and north central provinces and 70% of the requirement of the other provinces of the country. In a previous tweet posted in late December 2022, the Chinese embassy mentioned that the first batch of school uniform donations would contain 2.3 meters of white skirt frock material, 350,031.5 meters of white trouser material, 150,000.35 meters of blue trouser materials, and 138.134 meters of orange robe materials, bringing the total donation into 3 million meters of uniform material. And the Chief Executive Officer of the Colombo Stock Exchange, Bandara, says that the CSE has seen a build-up for investor confidence in the market despite the turmoil the country had prevailed and undergone last year. Speaking during a media briefing, he added that this is a direct result of the measures taken by the CSE to encourage foreigner participation in the market. The CEO also went on to say that they have also carried out over 500 workshops last year across the country to educate potential investors on the benefit of the stock exchange investment and the workings of it, and expect to do all that and much more this year as well.
We completely revamped the entire set of rules of the stock exchange, the stockbroker rules, the listing rules, the CDS rules, the automated trading rules, to be in conformity with the new SEC Act which came into being in 2021. The exercise that we did was to completely realign all of our rules with the new Act. All those rules have now been forwarded to the SEC for approval, and we are expecting those to be done within the course of the next couple of months, and we will see those rules coming into effect. Then in terms of expanding the market, we continued our broad-based strategy of investor education and awareness programs, and we are reverting back from webinars to more physical workshops and seminars, over maybe 500 workshops around the country, and increased our intensity last year as well to continue to do investor education work, not only for investors but also working with state universities as well to conduct these awareness programs and generally contribute to improving the financial literacy among different groups in society. A quick word about foreign investment as well. We continue to engage foreign investors and show with the stockbroking community. The CSE conducted a forum in London last January, mainly to engage existing foreign investors because they had some concerns on Sri Lanka, and I think a delegation went from here and met quite a few of those investors who were invested in Sri Lanka, and there were follow-up forums done by stockbrokers themselves. And the good news is, in about September, October, there was a group of foreign investors who in fact visited Sri Lanka on the invitation of a stockbroking firm and met even the president and the governor, a central bank governor as well. So I'm sure those initiatives will help to build some confidence among investors again and encourage them back into the market.
The Sri Lankan shares edged down today on weak macroeconomic sentiment on constant delays on the IMF loan that was supposed to be acquired by the first quarter of this year. The all share price index closed at 0.86%, low at 8,262.58. The index has already lost 1.9% within the first 2 weeks of trade. The S&P SL20 closed 0.86% lower to 2,528.8. The market turnover was 1.5 billion rupees, lower than this month's 2 billion rupees average daily turnover. The market saw net foreign inflow of 109 million rupees. Now here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee fared against other major currencies in the world. That's all the news we have for this evening. Join us again tomorrow for the very latest news at the very same time. Have a pleasant evening and good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.